and thanks for staying with us. First, let's take a look at humor density. It's a little known fact that Coer's principle of humor density was first discovered at the turn of the 20th century. Now, many historians incorrectly attribute the silent film technique of faster than expected motion to the primitive nature of the emerging film technology. In fact, Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton were applying recently discovered principles of humor to an emerging narrative medium. But to understand what we mean when we say humor density, let's define the concept. Humor density is measured by funniness divided by time. Funniness is, unfortunately, a difficult concept to measure. Some of my colleagues have proposed a laugh constant that measures the amount of haws, and their equivalents, that sound after humor has been executed. Others have proposed a more sophisticated approach, which takes into account the average volume of air expelled and its speed once a punchline has been delivered. Fortunately for us, no such definition is required for our purposes. We'll just use the symbol F. Time is usually measured in seconds, since jokes typically do not supersede a few minutes in duration. Thus, our equation becomes d sub h is equal to f divided by t. Coer states that the highest humor density possible is the most desirable state for a joke or bit to exist in. Essentially, the higher the humor density, the more humorous and valuable the joke is. This exists because of life's finite nature. Let's demonstrate this concept.
What do you call a fish without an eye? A fish.
That riddle took 4 seconds to execute. Now see what happens when we double the speed and cut the delivery time in half.
What do you call a fish without an eye?
See what I mean? Because it was the same joke, the funniness, F, remained constant. However, T measured 4 seconds in the first instance and 2 in the second. Thus, the humor density doubled, making the second telling of the riddle more valuable and giving the listener more time to experience more humor. This, of course, does not apply exclusively to verbal humor, but to visual humor as well, as evidenced by the humor experiments conducted by Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton. By reducing the amount of time it took a visual gag to be executed, these geniuses effectively increased their humor density and increased the value of their bits. There are limitations to this theory, however. 12 years after arriving at his principle, Coer published a second treatise on humor density, in which he proposed a humor density threshold. He posited that, theoretically, a joke can be delivered in too short of an amount of time as to render it undecipherable to the listener. Again, let us demonstrate this concept. See what I mean? Because the number of seconds was so small, it increased the humor density by enormous proportions, much more than the average person can handle. Ergo, it crossed over the humor density threshold. You can see there are a lot of things to keep in mind here. Chaplin and Keaton were early pioneers in this field, and they have taught us a lot about what it takes to achieve that masterful balance. My job here at the Randumb Show is to make sure our humor density is as high as possible without crossing that threshold, presenting you with more valuable humor every time you watch. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for another scientific principle of funniness and more dense humor.